My name is Peter Stanton, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to what's actually our 25th annual Business Leader of the Year event. We do a number of events throughout the year, and but this program is actually our longest standing one, and we have quite a tradition of recognizing the very best leaders from our community. And certainly this year is no exception, because we have some terrific winners who we'll hear from both in a panel conversation and then obviously at the awards ceremony. So what the program is, we'll have some introductory remarks from our presenting sponsor. We'll then, Rick Saia, our editor, will come up and bring up the winners, and we'll have a panel conversation right here. And then right when they're in the middle of some wonderful thoughts, I'll interrupt them because it's time to keep the program moving, and we'll go into the award ceremony, and then we'll promise a break and a nice reception soon to follow. So a special thank you to our presenting sponsor, and that is Nichols College, and our media sponsor, WTAG. And for some remarks from Nichols College, I'd like to invite up Tom Cafaro, who's the Vice President of Marketing. Tom.
Thank you, Peter. On behalf of Nichols College, I would like to offer my congratulations to the 4 individuals chosen as this year's business leaders. The 4 men we recognize tonight have very different backgrounds, and I would guess they have very different leadership styles. However, what I believe they all have in common is vision, passion, confidence, and perseverance, enough to be successful in their chosen field. Nichols College sponsors this event because our mission is to transform today's students into tomorrow's leaders, and we deliver on our mission. 40% of our graduates become a CEO, corporate president, or owners of their own business. And over 93% of the Nichols class that just graduated in 2013 were employed or in graduate school within 6 months of graduation, and today that's pretty decent. We also deliver value for our degrees. We know we're ranked 9th among regional colleges in the United States in the category of best value colleges, according to the U.S. News and World Report 2014 survey. And we rank 6th among all business schools nationally for return on investment by payscale.com. We take leadership seriously, and we are the only college in Central Mass to offer the Master of Science of Organizational Leadership. And if you're not a financial manager, this degree probably fits your needs in business better than the MBA. The MSOL provides the knowledge and skills in leadership, negotiation, conflict management, organizational change, innovation, and especially ethics. Ethical conduct these days is critical to be successful as leaders. These are the skills necessary to advance your career through the management ranks and give you the confidence to launch your own business. We're very passionate about our business, which is education. And that means our focus is on helping our students reach their business and professional goals. In closing, I want to thank Peter for hosting these. We do several of these with Peter, and we like being involved with it because they do recognize leadership, and we like to be involved in that. And once again, I want to say congratulations to our 4 recipients who are being awarded today. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Tom, and thank you for your support. It's much appreciated. So I'm going to invite up Rick Saia. There he is in the front row, the man in the yellow tie, who is the editor of the Worcester Business Journal. And Rick will do introductions and run this conversation. Rick, you're on.
Okay, I'd like to introduce our business leaders one by one, if they can come right up to the stage, leap up, jump up, whatever you wish. First, I'd like to introduce the CEO of uTest in Framingham, soon to be named Applause, Doron Reuveni. Next, I'd like to introduce Tim Mammen, the Senior Vice President and CFO of IPG Photonics in Oxford. He's representing the CEO, Dr. Valentin Gapontsev. Next is Matthias Waschek, the director of the Worcester Art Museum. And finally, the president of Consigli Construction, our Corporate Citizen Award winner, Anthony Consigli. Okay, let the interrogation begin. Nice chair. Okay, Matthias, my first question is for you. As a leader of a nonprofit organization, what are the unique challenges you face in recruiting employees as opposed to what the leader of a for-profit company would face?
I think there are no differences. Probably we can all relate to the fact when we want to get top people to Worcester, that people may be a little bit hesitant to come to Worcester. We don't have an as good press outside of Worcester as we deserve. But what I've seen for our museum is that the more the profile of the museum was growing, the easier it was to attract top talent. And I very much hope that our success will help Worcester as well.
Okay. Doron, a question for you. As your company grows, what are some of the biggest risks you face?
So that's an excellent question. So first of all, I don't like to call them risks. I like to call them opportunities. And, I think, not too long ago, I kind of gave a State of the Union speech to the company when we finished Q1. And one of the things that I was asked by a young sales guy was, are we still a startup? Like, is uTest still a startup? And that was, it kind of caused me to sit for a second and think, are we really a startup? And, we're 150 employees. We hired 50 people in the last quarter. And when I thought about it, I kind of realized what the biggest risk is. And the biggest risk is for us to grow and stop being hungry, stop being nimble, stop being pursuing perfection, basically doing everything in order to delight our customers. So from my perspective, the biggest risk for us is that we kind of let the guard off and not continue to be agile, nimble, aggressive, and see our customers as the most important asset that we have.
Okay. So it's kind of like making sure that you're always growing and looking.
You're always
just like if you were at 5 employees.
Exactly. You're
Right.
always listening. You're always trying to adjust. The market today moves so quickly. So having the capability to listen to your customers and adjust all the time is very important. You need to not lose it as you grow.
Okay. Tim, I have a question for you. How does IPG celebrate its successes and learn from mistakes or failures?
I think, first of all, you try to repeat the successes and not the failures. Mm-hmm. You look back on them and really determine what drove them. Mm-hmm. You can identify them down to fairly small successes or small failures and the larger impact of them. And it's important to be also not scared of the failure, because sometimes it's not so much celebrating them. I'd say there's a huge learning experience out of failure. And IPG is interesting in that way that it's quite a forgiving place in terms of if you're prepared to take a risk and do something and try hard at it. You're not punished for the failures. Of course, you have to recognize them. I think we're pretty good at being open about failures. So if you foster an environment where people can talk about them, it enables you to understand them and change them. If you don't have an open environment where you can talk about the failures and accept them, you tend to hide them and then you don't learn from them. In one sense, what we do in the development of the technology is actually constantly trying to create failure through stress. So we do a huge amount of testing of all the optical components, and this is slightly different from looking at personal failures in terms of making mistakes, but people will develop a new optical component and that'll be put under a very, very rigorous testing regime to try to get it to fail. And from the failure, you can, when it does fail, you determine why it failed. And by gradually changing and fine-tuning the component through each successive failure, you ultimately get to a more perfect part. In the same way, through the organization, you can apply that in many, many different areas to look at the failures and what made them ultimately enable you to turn something into a success, I think. So it's not to be scared of the failures. I can't say we really celebrate them or look at them. I think the successes come from the performance of the company, really. And the failures are probably not apparent from the outside. They're more internal to the company where you learn from them and analyze them.
Okay. So grow through turning failures into successes, the learning environment.
There's a huge aspect of that. I think it's as much as that's what life is really about, in my opinion. Yeah.
Okay. Anthony, what primarily drives Consigli Construction to place such a high priority on its contributions to the communities it serves?
So, from our standpoint, getting involved in charitable projects, especially ones in which our employees are able to actually go there and work, gives us, it's a learning opportunity, it's a team building activity. It allows us to give back a lot of times to the organizations we're partnering with to build projects. Besides the fact that it's just a feel-good type thing to give back to the community. So our company's been around a little over 100 years, so we're firmly rooted in the Central Mass community. So when we can give back, particularly in this area that gave us our start, it's even more rewarding. But so when we can go out and show our skill sets actually doing work, that's primarily the best avenue for us to to take part in a charitable endeavor.
I want to go back to Matthias. Unlike your fellow honorees, your organization's success lies in part on how it gets its message out to the local community. With all the media we have around us, and especially social media, how do you grab the attention of as many people as possible?
Wow. If I only knew. No, I do a little bit. Well, you have to have a product, to speak in the for-profit lingo, that is attractive. You have to be very uncomplacent with what it is that you have to offer and shape it to something that is attractive for broader audiences in our case. And I think to just focus Worcester is strategically not a good approach. We have to focus on the Boston area. And the more we get visibility from the outside of the Boston area, the better it is for our visibility locally. So I don't know if you know, we got, due to a very good PR firm and hopefully good products, the attention of the Wall Street Journal, which again helps us locally. So they all communicate. You can't separate local from regional from national.
Yeah, I think I've heard of the Wall Street Journal.
Our article, I meant, not
right. Now, about the recent absorbing of the Higgins exhibit. I mean, they got a lot of press in the Boston papers.
Yeah.
At least the Globe. I didn't really see the Herald. Was that a surprise to you in some way, or is it just a moment to sit back and savor some marketing triumphs?
It's good when not everything happens at the same time.
Right.
We have quite some more ammunition, and we're going to shoot that out as we go along. So it's also about momentum building, and again we have the great support from a PR firm that in this case has to be New York based, not local, to help us look at a broader picture.
Okay. Doron, back to you. uTest has a unique business model in that it acts as a marketplace for testing by contracting with independent testers from around the world. How do you keep all of them on the same page when it comes to the company's mission and making sure they do the work the way you want it to be done?
Sure. So today the company has assembled a community of 120,000 professional testers from 200 countries across the world, and they actually test software for our customers over a technology platform that we developed. So the technology platform makes sure that basically the incentives as well as the actions are aligned with the result that the customer wants. So that's the majority of the business of what we do. However, having said that, we have an internal community team that invests quite a lot, both technology and time, in order to vet and retain and communicate with the various testers around the world. I'll give you an example. So the testers, for example, will assemble in specific geographic locations. We'll send them T-shirts. They'll meet at the local bar and kind of hang out. So over time, the testers are more than just individuals working for us and for our customers. They're actually part of the mission in order to make uTest better. They feel part of the community. They feel that they belong to something, and they feel that that they are in the mission together in order to change the way software testing is done. I want to kind of add a small story on top of that, if I may.
By all means.
So a few years ago, we were only 5 years old. About 3 years ago, and we pay our testers. We pay them twice a month, on the 15th, on the 30th of every month. We pay them for the work that they do. And we actually pay them automatically. There's a, I would say, in technical terms, there's a cron job that runs and pays the testers. So about 3 years ago, cash was kind of tight. And the cron job ran, and then I guess it crashed. And then it woke itself up and ran again. So what eventually happened is we actually paid everybody twice, okay?
Nice.
So everybody got like a double paycheck. And the first, immediately after the cron run, and it runs at night, we started getting emails from testers, hey guys, you paid me twice, here's your money back. Okay, so they initiated a PayPal transfer back into us. We kind of talked to the management team. It was actually on a Sunday night, and we said, what are we going to do? And what we decided to do is that, obviously we can't take the money back because it was already transferred. We decided to write a blog post. And in the blog, we said, you know what, we messed up. We had a bug in our system. We paid everybody twice. And the amazing thing is, after 24 hours, 95% of the money was returned back to our account. So they actually went in to their PayPal, clicked, returned the money. And after a full week, 100% of the money came back to our account. I think that was a moment in time when I realized that what we're creating here is actually more than just individuals that are doing work in order to get money back. They actually feel a part of a community, a part of a global mission. And I think that really helped in cultivating the culture of the company and the community, because I didn't expect it to be so 100%.
That probably leads me to a question for all of you to chime in. How do you get everybody on your team to buy into the mission? Raise your hand, anyone.
I can take a shot at that. So, for us, culture
Right.
is a huge thing. We even have something which we call the culture code that we really invest in. And that basically means that we understand that, especially in today, management is not just top-down, it's also bottom-up. And it's basically the employees and the individuals and the young kids that come from colleges and it's their first or second job are the ones that are actually helping to build the company. And that's part of our culture code. And, we focus on that. And that helps them define, where the company is heading. And my job as a CEO is kind of have the long-term vision of 18 to 24 months, but it's actually the people that drive the company and the execution.
In our case, talking about vision, we had a vision statement until 2020. That was the first step. And then a sequence, we are going to have a sequence of strategic plans, corporate strategic plans, and then division-specific strategic plans, to get everyone aligned. At the very moment people take ownership, they hopefully will be aligned faster than without allowing people ownership.
Yeah, and I think from our standpoint, we're fortunate in that we build buildings, and we try to stay selective over the types of buildings we build. And we want to build buildings that make an impact on our community. So whether it be museums or schools, hospitals, churches. I mean, difficult buildings, complex buildings, and that in itself is kind of a draw to people, especially when they have the opportunity to work with good people, people they like working with. When you add in the complexities of some of these buildings, whether it be incomplete plans, weather, labor issues, material supply issues, it becomes a significant challenge, and that brings people together, provided they handle it the right way. And a lot of times our people do. They're great. I mean, going back to some of the charitable work we do in the community, a lot of times that serves as sort of a team building, culture building exercise, especially for people who haven't seen each other for a couple of years. You know, we could be doing 60, 80, 100 different projects in and around New England at any one point in time. So they may not, you know, those projects might take 6 months, might take 2 years. So they may not be seeing other people within the company for that period of time. So these types of little things allow people to come back and kind of see each other again, trade war stories, ask about each other's families, and that kind of keeps a tight culture.
Nice.
I think from our perspective, it's as much about making people feel as though they're part of the creation of something. It comes back to your point there, where if you feel part of a community, you feel that you're being successful, I think it drives the culture within the organization. I think you also have to, when you're hiring people, you want to look for people who want to be creative, who get some sense of satisfaction and joy out of solving problems, who have a sense of perseverance about things, because it's not all a runway of success. There are times when things get, you know, extremely complex, very difficult, and you have to deal with those situations as well. I think, though, the overall success of an organization helps to foster ultimately that sense of achievement for everybody. I think if an organization is not succeeding, it becomes more difficult to engage people and motivate them.
I have a question, a new question for you, Tim. Dr. Kapontsev took a lot of risks in launching the company. Today, it's the unquestioned leader in its market. What does IPG do to ensure it maintains that leadership position, and how does Dr. Kapontsev communicate that?
Well, he's given me quite a few heart attacks over the last 15 years in deploying capital, and he clearly he has a tremendous vision and an understanding about the technology that we've developed and the benefits of it. At a time when everybody was sort of outsourcing, he decided to insource and took risks around that, deployed a lot of capital at a time when the company was not doing particularly well because we were going through the telecom bust.
Right.
So sales had dropped very dramatically, and we started to invest tens of millions of dollars in diode production, for example. Those risks are, if he has an ability to communicate the reasons for doing things and the benefits that will come out of it. Mm-hmm. And if you can understand and articulate why you're taking the risk, I think it's easier to get people on board to accept that. It comes back to the whole essence of failure, though. If you're not going to take a risk, you're never going to fail at anything. So all of these things are closely intertwined, I think. He communicates things because he's very closely involved in the day-to-day management of the company. He's constantly driving the R&D processes. I think IPG really it's a very innovative company. We're constantly changing and developing new products, but it ties that innovation to commercial opportunity. So he will not let people go off on different tangents just because they've got a scientifically interesting problem to solve. He generally drives people in the direction of solving problems that will ultimately drive commercial value, so reducing costs of components because it'll enable us to sell the product more cheaply or increase the profitability. But he'll do that for a product line where the market opportunity is large. So he will define, or other people will help him define the market opportunities, and we'll try and pursue those. So in terms of, the history of the laser industry has been really sometimes of very small companies that get too hung up on the technology, and they ultimately often don't succeed, or they remain as extremely small organizations solving a very small part of the problem. So he's been kind of unique in driving that innovation, the cost down. The change within the organization is constant. It's difficult to keep up with it. I do a lot of work speaking to investors, and we've taken a huge amount of cost out of one of our components. It's come down from $80 to it's right now at about $2 for an individual unit. So 95% plus of the cost taken out of it. And I used to go into investor meetings, and when we were at $7 a cost, and I'd say, well, we've already taken 90% out. It's going to be difficult to take more out of this. And then 6 months later, we're at $5. And I sort of, the next investor meeting, I'm going, well, don't expect us to take much more out of this. And, very shortly thereafter, it's not 2 years, it's 6 months later, there's another 40% taken out of the cost. So that constant process of change and driving change, he's very actively involved in that. And not letting people, as I say, go off on tangents and just pursue something that they think is interesting. It has to have some commercial value to it as well.
So keep them focused.
Yeah, there's a lot of focus within the company.
Doron, your co-founder, Roy Solomon, told us recently that the market you're in changes frequently. Are there any unique things you do to make sure your business model stays unique and that the company grows? Is the diversification beyond in-the-wild testing part of that?
Yeah, so I'll talk with my co-founder after that if you said that. No, I'm kidding.
I got it. Did I quote him correctly?
Yeah, you did.
Okay.
And it's, by the way, it's actually a very true statement. So a lot of our business is actually testing apps, okay? And today, everybody obviously owns a mobile device and probably has a bunch of apps on the mobile device, from the financial to the supermarkets and everything. So we test those. And I think there's two ways where we're innovating, and we're testing those in the wild. Way number one is we're actually making it, using technology, much easier to communicate between 120,000 professional testers and the actual commercial company testing the product. And that basically means by automatically sending crash reporting and shaking the phone and sending various bugs and stuff like that. Having said that, we're in only the first era of what we call mobile, and we're in the beginning of the apps economy. So one of the things that the company is doing is actually starting to test the next iteration of apps. And that basically means connected TVs and gaming consoles and wearable hardware devices like Google Glass, and specific hardware controls and devices like garbage disposal that send you a text when it's full. And BMW is one of our customers because we test apps in cars. And by the way, that's not a joke. There are devices like that. So as the app economy grows and apps are everywhere, our business grows. So really, this is part of who we are.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I'd like to go to Anthony. Is there any one contribution to the local community that you have found most satisfying?
The ones where our people kind of generate on their own and take the lead on their own without me getting involved are the ones I'm proudest of. I mean, our people basically inspire me and sometimes challenge me as I'm not doing enough. I think it was just yesterday, 3 different people approached me, thanked me for a job we had done over at Great Brook Valley here in Worcester, and I knew nothing about it. And I was sort of embarrassed at the time, but I came back and I said, hey, what did we do and who organized it? And sent them out. I sent them out a thank you. As much as I wanted to be upset because I didn't know about it, I'm like, hey, this is what's supposed to happen. If you have a culture in your organization of wanting to give back, I probably shouldn't know about everything that we do. And I think that was great.
Okay. Matthias, in recruiting employees, how important is it that the prospective employee be passionate about the organization's mission?
It is beyond crucial.
Okay.
It's very important that no matter on which level we recruit, and we've done quite some recruiting recently, that every employee takes ownership of the Worcester Art Museum being a visitor-centric institution, not a repository of art that can exist without people. We can only live with people, as many as possible. It's important also that whoever we attract buys into the fact that we are for Worcester. We're working for Worcester and for the region. If somebody does not believe in this, they cannot work in our context.
Okay, I'm going to go to Tim now. Although there's more manufacturing talent throughout the world, IPG chooses to control all its production work rather than outsource. I think you were just alluding to it in the last answer. While many other manufacturers have been quick to outsource, what advantages does IPG enjoy by going the other way?
Numerous. Yeah, it's an interesting sort of philosophy that Dr. Capons have adopted, and it really, first of all, we're very deeply a technology company. So by insourcing things, you keep the technology in-house. You're not teaching other people how you do things. And that's very fundamentally important because it builds a barrier around the organization and limits the competition in their ability to catch up with what you're doing. The other really core benefits of it are it enables a much faster time, in our experience, to development. So, and some of the processes even around development are unique to IPG. So this use of a lot of test data for stress testing components, for example. We have billions of hours of test data. All of that is really part of the vertical integration because it's internal to the organization really than being external to it. So we shorten our development cycles when we bring new product to the market. I alluded to the fact that the organization is constantly changing and sometimes it's even difficult to keep up with it. Mm-hmm. So that very, very shortened lead time and development is another benefit of vertical integration. And then, of course, as you get to scale within the manufacturing, you start to reap the benefits of the economies that arise from that. And it enables you to bring your costs down. And as you do that, it enables you to compete in the marketplace a lot more efficiently and effectively. So that scale in itself then builds another barrier to the organization because now people who are trying to compete with us, in order to replicate what we've done on that scale, it's not only time, or it's not only money, but there's a huge amount of time to get to where we are, and there's an associated risk with it because we are the leader in what we do. So that's another barrier that the scale enables the company to create around it. There are, of course, risks with it because there is a huge amount of resources that is deployed within the company in a high fixed cost base. So whilst you are growing and performing well, you leverage that vertical integration and you can grow margins and you start to throw off a lot of cash. You have to be cautious and wary of the down cycles though. So in 2009, you saw our gross margins come down significantly, but we also chose to keep the talent within the company. We didn't want to lay off people because we thought when we saw the business recover, coming out of a deep recession like that, people want to use new technology and that happened. So we managed the P&L to a certain extent, but we sort of more managed the balance sheet at that point in time. So the downside risk is that if you don't grow and you don't leverage that fixed cost base, it can be very detrimental to the business model. Luckily to date, we've managed to leverage the investments that we've made. The other thing I'd say is that you have to also be as much as cautious of your successes as your failures. So you can't just become, because something has been a success in the past, you can't become beholden to it. Right. And we're not, if we needed, 1 million pieces of a basic component, we would go out and outsource that. It's just that we don't produce, like in the automotive industry, we produce millions of vehicles. We produce 20,000 lasers. The scale of what we do is more limited, particularly on non-technology components. So you can't necessarily just be beholden to that vertical integration. You have to look at it depending upon the types of parts that you're doing. But a large part of what we do is obviously insourced into the company.
To Anthony, what influence would you like Consigli Construction to have on communities throughout the region? What's your vision for the impact your organization can have on the region?
Well, our vision statement is build great buildings, great
Right.
people, great relationships. So, it's not just about the building that we leave behind. And we hope that the buildings that we get involved in are 50, 100-year structures, things that aren't going to get torn down in 10 years and replaced with something else. but it's more than that. It's really about building a great organization of people that will, span generations, and it's about having great relationships with the the organizations that we work with. I mean, that's really very rewarding as well. If we can do all three of those things, then we feel like we've really left a positive impact on the community.
Okay, thanks. I've got a question for Tim, for Doron, and for Anthony. All your companies have experienced growth within the last decade. Since you need to communicate with more people, how do you best accomplish that? How do you make sure everyone, no matter how large, how small the size of the organization, gets on and stays on the same page? Hands?
I think it comes back to that question of focus, and
Right.
it's a certain element of discipline. It's fostering the culture within the organization. It's setting targets. It's having mission statements. It's communicating to the organization. It's constantly reviewing what you're doing. It's engaging people in trying to understand what you're trying to achieve. I think all of those things become very important. I think as you do become larger and larger as an organization, clearly that becomes more and more difficult to do. This panel is very cosmopolitan, by the way. It's great to see that in Worcester. IPG is a fairly cosmopolitan company, so one of the challenges we have is employees here, Germany, in Russia, in China, Japan, Korea, on different time zones. Even just within the finance organization, enabling people to communicate is difficult. Technology is helping with that, so there's a lot of things you can do by presentations. We do a lot of traveling around the world, so thankfully I'm having to spend less time on the road as I've employed more people, but there were times when I was traveling internationally 2 or 3 times a quarter. So we try and send people out from corporate management regularly to all of our organizations to communicate with people what they should be doing. Valentin does a lot of traveling still. He spends a lot of time in Europe in particular. And so that people like seeing senior management. And even if you've got a small organization somewhere, it's important to go and visit them on a fairly regular basis. And then that forms part of the whole communication process as well.
Doron, Anthony?
Well, I can't wait to tell my daughters that I was referred to as cosmopolitan. I'm excited. I am very excited about that. But so our challenge in construction is as I said before, we have sites all through New England and New York, and communicating with people who are not in your own building is a challenge. That, coupled with the fact that people are receiving so much information all of the time, I may think I'm communicating with them, but they may not be hearing me, and they certainly may not be retaining that information. So it becomes a constant challenge of kind of Chinese water torture, just over and over getting the information to people. So it may be some video blog, it may be some intranet, it may be some just email, it may be, but the biggest and best thing is actually me being there. So whether it's myself and my brother, who owns the company with myself, it's really spending time in the car, driving there and spending time with people.
Doron?
Yeah, I think Tim hit it right on. I mean, it's one of the things that you need to keep working on because it's important and you need to spend energy. What we do is we have a few sites. So, our headquarters is here. We have a San Mateo office and we have a Seattle office, and then we have salespeople all over the country, and then we have 2 offices in Europe. Technology helps a lot, video conferencing and stuff like that. I try also to make sure that my executives travel and spend time in those locations so they are visible on a continuous basis. One of the things that I did, which I think was very successful, is we have board meetings 4 times a year. That includes investors and the board members, and we try to kind of do them bi-coastal. So although the headquarters of the company here, we try to have at least once a year a board meeting in Europe, and at least once a year a board meeting in California. And that helps, the employees in those locations feel that, we're important. Board meeting is being held here, executive meeting is being held here, and I think it kind of helps bring it together.
Okay. want to go to, I guess all of you. What traits do you look for in promoting employees to leadership positions? I think I'll start with Matthias because he was not in the last question.
And I just hired my leadership team, which consists out of 4 people. And, well, they have to buy into the mission, obviously. We said that before. They have to round out my own skill set. That is very, very important. And they have to gel with one another, with me, and with the institution. They have to support a set of ethical ideals, and they have to be behind the fact that we are working for Worcester and that we want to make a difference for our city. It's a very different, I mean, the not-for-profit situation is different. I'm a little bit the odd duckling out here because even the words that you're using in the not-for-profit world, we would not use that. I mean, we're not talking about profit, we're talking about sticking to our budget. We are not talking about mega profits, we're talking about being relevant. So my staff is appointed and selected to fulfill these goals. Some of us who are very successful in the not-for-profit world would probably miserably fail in your world, and some of you who are highly successful in your world would be absolute disasters in ours. So it's a very different world. But there is a bottom line that I think we all share. Dedication is another one of those.
Joe?
I can take that. I mean,
Okay.
for me, when I hire executives and, the people that directly report to me, I'm actually looking for people who are better than me at what they do. So if I'm hiring a COO, CFO, he needs to understand better than me in finance. He needs to be able to be stronger than me operational. If I, recruit a VP of marketing, he needs to understand marketing better than me. So I'm looking for those individuals that are better than me, that can teach me, that I can learn from them. And if I find that right individual, I think that's the type of trait that I'm looking for. The second thing for me is, I like athletes. I like competitive people, because especially as you grow a smaller company, and the world out there is pretty big and pretty mean. There's competitions, there's challenges and stuff like that. So having the right A players that like to kind of win, but also enjoy the game is very important.
Okay. Tim?
Well, I guess it's a lot of things, but one that kind of surprises people when I talk about this is likability. So we have like a 2-hour drive test rule. If I can't see myself driving 2 hours to a project site with someone in the car, then I really don't want to work with that person. And so, construction is hard enough as it is. I really don't want to be doing it with people I don't want to spend time with. It's the second highest failure rate of all businesses in the United States, second only to restaurants. And so, the risks are high. So you really want to be spending time with people that, aren't agonizing.
I think I'm going to implement the 2-hour stress test. I think is hiring criteria. I like Doron's answer here because I always try to look for people who are better than me as well. That's, I think, such an important thing to do. You can't be scared of hiring people who are going to help you grow. And apart from anything else, they make your job easier and enable you to perhaps go and play a bit more golf occasionally, although we don't get much chance for that at IPG. I like to find people who've got a lot of perseverance and tenacity, and I think it's as much as one of the great attributes of Valentin is his tenacity and perseverance that he has and the vision he has. And if you find people like that, I read a book recently about how children succeed, and one of the points this book made was that children who succeed generally tend to have a great amount of tenacity and perseverance. It's identified as a trait that drives more success than anything else almost. I think people who are ethical are extremely important, and I like people who are inquiring as well, who want to get deeply involved into things and solve problems. I think all of those attributes are extremely important.
It's like, sounds like, children asking a question, why? And I'm just alluding to like annoying 3-year-olds.
Yeah, we can be a bit like that sometimes.
Yeah.
But my wife says I am still, so.
My wife says I am too. Final question, and I'll open this up to all of you. How have you dealt with disappointments or setbacks in your paths to leadership?
So I was on a lot of sports teams growing up, and I always revert back to that because we lost a lot of games. And so, I think about, the fact that, you'd lose a game, you'd have to get back up ready to play the next week. And I think that probably in itself is the one thing I think about the most after a failure or a disappointment or something not going our way.
Anybody else?
Yeah, so the way, I look at it, building a company, a big company for the generation is, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And, in every marathon there's, harder miles and easier miles, I guess. And, I think the most important thing is to understand two things. One, it's okay to fail. Okay, because when you're trying to push the envelope and be innovative and grow a company and scale and do something which is unique that hasn't been done before, you're going to fail along the way, many, many times, actually. And I think the second thing that you need to identify is that you need to, from every failure, you need to identify what I learned from that failure and what can I do to improve the next time I go at it. And if you keep doing that and striving to improve from time to time, it's okay to fail. And just remember that it's, building a company is not, it's a marathon.
I can just say the past 2.5 years since I started my job at the Worcester Art Museum were full of successes and full of setbacks. And they happened in split seconds. And I said, damn, why didn't I see that? And lots of other people said also, damn, why didn't he see that? And ultimately, well, you have to learn from, damn, why didn't I see that? And find alternate routes. My biggest disappointment, which was the result of a naivete beyond belief, was I thought that I could stay all my life in France. So I had this nice job at a small museum on the Seine in Paris, called the Louvre, and I really thought until the end of my days I would be there without, everything would go automatically. And then I came to the tragic realization that although I love France and I do speak that language, I don't have that passport. And there was a glass ceiling. And I tried to get into what they call concours, which is this very absurd French system of testing people for higher positions, but I couldn't even apply for this because I didn't have the right passport. I thought this is a great setback, and I could have easily said, well, what do I do now? Maybe I'm just disappointed. What I did was I went to the heartlands of America, to St. Louis. I didn't even know where that city was on the map before my plane landed. And the rest for me is history and growth. So sometimes when you're set on something and you think it's an utter disappointment that one thing doesn't work out, you find alternate routes, and it is phenomenal. And as you point out, I mean, there are so many people with a funny accent, yours included, who come to this country and really get an incredible fulfillment.
I think with one of the more difficult things I've had to learn in terms of leadership is it comes back to the organization changing. So I joined IPG in 1999, and I was 29. The company had $7 million in sales, and the finance function, as you can imagine, was not particularly large. So we had to do everything. I was sitting posting journal entries and putting the consolidations together, and I've really had to learn to stop doing a lot of things, because it's the grave danger is if you carry on doing things, you're abdicating your leadership of enabling other people and training them and allowing them to grow into those roles. But it's difficult to let go of stuff sometimes.
Right.
And you know, I kind of like the detail work as well, but I know as well when I'm getting too involved in it, I'm abdicating my responsibilities of delegating, of managing, of helping grow. And that's probably for me been one of the more difficult things, of going from 7 million to the size, you know, $600 million plus, and having many more people helping in the finance organization that we had before. Again, it comes back to a lot of the failures. Like, I think the times IPG has learnt a lot are, and where the leaders start to come to the fore, is when we've had these difficult times. So when we were going through the crisis in 2002, 2003, and talking about being short of cash, we were down to our last sort of $200,000 as well. And you learn from that. You start to make decisions a bit more differently. You stand up. One of the things we implemented at IPG at that point in time was a reduction in executive of salary. Everybody took a salary pay cut for a year and a half. And in exchange for which we got some options. It actually ended up being the best investment that the company made. But so out of that sort of very difficult time, we tried to get people to buy into the difficulties, and we felt very challenged around the company and the leadership. But it helped the company to survive that next year by taking those pay cuts and things like that. So I think if you behave in a certain way, you can create that culture within the organization.
Thank you. Gentlemen, it was a great discussion. Great past 45 minutes. I've really enjoyed it. So I thank you very much for coming up here and talking about your organizations and leadership. And now you just go back to your seats so you can enjoy the rest of the program. Thank you. So Doron?
Doron Reuveni from uTest, and I sort of had this little slash for applause, which is the new name that his company will have as of May. So Doron Reuveni's early vision for uTest was clearly as a market disruptor. Fast forward 7 years later, and he and his co-founder Roy Solomon have moved from startup disruptors to managing a red-hot company through massive growth and expansion of its services. The meteoric rise of uTest shows just how ripe the software testing market was for a new business model, and our region stands to benefit from their success. The ranks of local employees in their Framingham headquarters are continuing to grow, and the recent injection of $43 million from a new round of financing puts even more fuel in the tank. Doron's leadership style has combined an ability to move quickly to seize opportunities, while also being thoughtful and deliberate about the strategy by which the company will continue to accelerate. Let's hear from some of the folks at uTest about what makes their leader tick.
So when I started my career, I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I always wanted to own my own business. I always looked up to the guys that build big companies and, are really successful.
He deserves it because he's a rare CEO in that he's very methodical, very even-keeled, and despite all of his personal success and our professional success, how humble he still is and how hungry he still is.
He's been very innovative in the app quality space, really at the forefront of the market. Being able to determine about 5 years ago that there was such a need in the app quality space to have a global community of testers.
He's never too up, he's never too down, he gives good advice, a good listener, and he's forever dissatisfied in a positive way.
I've learned many things, and I think my management style includes the fact that it's about hiring great people. It's about giving them, all the information, all the leverage in order to be successful, and mentoring them. So they're the ones that are actually paving the way. I really help with putting the vision in place and helping them hire the right people.
He's very innovative in how he brings his problem-solving ability to either conventional type problems or new areas in the market. But he's very much a hands-on collaborator, and that resonates very well with our employees.
There's natural leaders and the leaders that kind of grow over time. I think really the capability to communicate and lead by example is one of the most important things. So I think having attention to details and really being able to differentiate what's important and what's not important is really signs of a great leader.
He doesn't ask his team to do anything that he wouldn't do. He puts in the time, the sweat equity, and he holds himself to the same standards that he expects us to live up to, which is methodical and reasoned and hardworking.
As you may know, he's an Iron Man, and that same level of passion and dedication he brings to the workspace as well.
We've taken the form and shape of Doron in terms of how driven we are, relentless, tenacious, those sorts of attributes describe Doron, and they describe the culture we're building at uTest.
I feel really proud, about what was built here in uTest. I feel really happy for the employees. I see a big company. I see a company that is here for the generation, way beyond me being the CEO. So in the next 2 years, I see a potential IPO, which is another milestone in order to grow the company, and then a really successful Metro West headquartered company, technology company.
Okay, for his vision in spotting a software testing niche ripe for rapid growth, the grittiness to persevere through the inevitable twists and turns of growing a company that employs over 120,000 contractors across the globe, his skill in attracting top-shelf investors and creative talent to the company, and the capacity to lead and inspire them, please recognize our small, but not small for very long, Business Leader of the Year, Doron Reuveni. Doron. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think we're taking our picture right here. If you can take that.
Thank you. So that's the first time I saw this video. So, it's a really great honor. I moved to this area about 18 years ago. This is my second startup here. I could have started uTest anywhere in the world. I mean, I could have started it in the heart of the valley. I could have started it in New York. And I chose here. I chose here because I think I get a lot of value. I get the best of what New England has to offer. And building a great company, headquarters in the greater Worcester area, lets us enjoy students that come from great schools here, as well as great accessibility both to the West Coast as well as in Europe, and really hiring great talent and great employees. And it's about them building the company, not really about me. But I really appreciate that. That's a great honor. Thank you.
By the way, let's all wish him luck. He is running the Boston Marathon on Monday. Which is shorter than his usual thing. He usually adds a 112-mile bike ride, etc. So that should be easy for you. Okay, Valentin Gapontsev, the president and CEO of IPG. Sometimes the struggles of one company can serendipitously lead to the good fortune of another. And so it played out in 1998 for our region when the once high-flying Galileo Corp of Sturbridge was undergoing some layoffs. Well, it just happened that at the time, one of Galileo's vendors, then based in Germany, was determined to open a US-based operation. And so IPG Photonics, seeing some talented people set loose, opened a local office of 17 folks, many of them former Galileo employees. Today, this Oxford-based juggernaut has been recognized by Fortune magazine as one of the country's 10 fastest growing companies, and by Forbes as a top 5 tech growth company, trailing only the likes of LinkedIn, Facebook, Apple, uTest? No, sorry. Soon uTest, and 3D Systems. Their local impact is huge, with revenues topping, as Tim mentioned, $600 million in 2013, with over 900 local employees, a number that has been constantly on the grow. Through his immense determination, ambition, innate business sense, and hands-on leadership, Valentin Gapontsev has created a multinational company with such a dominant market share that most analysts view the competition as years, not months behind them. The fact that 11 of those original 17 Sturbridge employees are still with the company speaks volumes to IPG's culture, its leadership, and how it values its people. Let's hear from Valentin and one of his senior managers, Felix Stukelin of IPG.
My target was to become general. If you don't target to be general, you never will be general.
Valentin is an exceptional business leader. He has a technical insight. He has an unusual, he's unusually bright and hardworking. He has done a lot. His success is much greater than anything I think anybody expected. He certainly is the best business person I ever worked with. He's a very smart, technically very smart, and business-wise very smart. But there are many smart people. There are a few people who have this combination of being very capable, very effective, know how to manage people, and really caring about people.
They trust me. They trust me as a leader. They don't trust you. You don't have any chance to lead them.
He's very strategic in his thinking, but he's very hands-on in execution. So he has, he knows a lot about what he does. His expectation is that people work hard and they know what they're doing. And so again, it's very hands-on, very focused and hard-driven, but at the same time, also focused on making sure that people succeed.
I did not waste my life for pleasure. I don't like pleasure. I can spend one day, 2 days. After that, it's for me not interesting at all. I have to work. It's my life, my target.
Well, I think he knows who he is. I think that's something we all discover for ourselves at some point of time in our lives. Who we are, and he obviously knows who he is. He loves working. He enjoys it, and everybody around benefits from his work, so it's a great thing.
For his visionary leadership, strategic savvy, and positive impact his firm has had on its employees, the town of Oxford, and our entire region, please recognize the accomplishments of IPG Photonics founder and CEO, Dr. Valentin Gapontsev, and accepting for Valentin as CFO, Tim Mammen. Tim.
Valentin apologizes that he couldn't be here today. He's actually taking a little bit of leisure time, and it happens to be down in Florida. I know that he would like to ensure that all of our employees are really recognized in his acceptance of this award, both here in Oxford and in the rest of the world, because without them, IPG would not have achieved the success that it has done. It has been a great ride for the company, particularly in the last 3 or 4 years, where the growth rates really have been remarkable. And it is really due, I think Felix alluded to this when he talked on the video about the ability of Valentin to marry this technical insight that he has and the knowledge of the products that he builds, but to drive that to a commercial reality and to really solve problems that people are looking for in the marketplace. And that's really key to IPG's success. I was talking about it a bit on the panel discussion, that we don't just get lost in scientific and technical problems. The company really is commercially focused as well. And Felix is right, Valentin knows who he is. And he drives us all pretty hard. I wish he liked his leisure time a little bit more. But I know he's very, very proud to receive this, so thank you very much for the recognition of the company.
Thank you, Tim. And next, Matthias. So, when is the right time to name a relatively new CEO as a business leader? How are you sure that their early successes aren't simply the result of plans that were already underway? Matthias, do you have an answer for that? No, you don't have to answer that. Plus, the world of art is such a subjective arena. Could we really gauge the tangible difference that Matthias Waschek was making at the Worcester Art Museum? Well, not to worry. The numbers in the early reviews are all in, and boy, are they impressive. In his first 2 years at the helm, Matthias has driven up total attendance by some 70%, overseen a merger with Worcester's beloved Higgins Armory collection, created several highly acclaimed exhibits, including the most recent Higgins and WAM combination show that is currently running. You can tell us more about that. And he's done that really in warp speed. Now, that's not warp speed in the technology business, but warp speed in the museum business is, you know, having a merger and creating a show in about 120 days. So just amazing how that team has been able to perform. Just as importantly, he's brought a creative entrepreneurial energy that is transforming the institution and inspiring both staff and community to rally around him. I've twice seen Matthias this winter a few treadmills away at the Y, and he's there on the machine almost sprinting through his workout. I mean, he really is, and it's easy to imagine that he's bringing that same kind of energy to his work at the museum. So let's hear from some others on how they view Matthias in this short video.
I feel very honored to have been awarded this award. But I think it doesn't only go to me, at least I don't see it as such, but it goes to the team of my collaborators. Successes can only come, at least at the magnitude of the Worcester Art Museum or bigger institutions, when you have a good team with you all the way.
Matthias is a whirlwind of energy. He's also a magnet. He draws people in who want to help make the institution a more vibrant, engaging experience.
What you can find in our vision statement is a lot about connections, and that is so what Matthias is about, is connections.
When I started to study art history, I wanted to become an academic. So becoming the director of an art museum was much, much later.
Matthias is an entrepreneur in terms of engagement. He understands that this hallowed hall, this art museum, is a real gem in the city, in the region, in the nation.
His enthusiasm is just, it's hard to ignore. That, along with the vision that he has, that we all share, is kind of magic.
I think leadership styles are more related to the personality, which you don't choose. So you'd also have to ask my colleagues how my style is. I hope that I'm working in the spirit of a team. I think an important skill for a leader is to understand their limits and to find skill sets from other people to compensate for these limits.
He is such a creative thinker and a creative doer. And I think the most important thing about the arts community is that we know it means business. And the Worcester Art Museum is a premier example of arts that engage people in so many facets.
I see for the future of this museum, to which my own future is closely linked, that we are realizing the vision that was declared a year ago, the vision for the Worcester Art Museum as a major player in the cultural life of Worcester and in the region.
I just feel like he has opened the doors, opened the windows, and we are accessible to everyone. You know, he wants to be, wants the Worcester Art Museum to be a huge part of the community, and that will do nothing but great things.
So, when a long-term respected leader like Jim Wallou hands over the reins to a new director, you know the bar has been set high. Well, it's clear that Matthias Waschek is clearing it, and the Worcester Art Museum, under his leadership, has set a course on reaching new heights in the coming years. Please recognize our nonprofit business leader of the year, the effervescent Matthias Waschek.
What you have to know is that art historians like me in Europe only get awards after their retirement. So I'm not so well trained to say something meaningful, but I took some time to think about something. So I never had an award before, and it's particularly meaningful for me that I get this award, because art history is only meaningful if it goes along with business mindedness as non-for-profity as we are. The Worcester Art Museum, although it is 114 years old now, is actually a startup because we are reinventing ourselves to better serve the region and our city. And as such a startup, the credit for this award does not only go to me, it goes, this is almost like Hollywood, it goes to our very hard working board, but it also goes to my very hard-working team. My very first appointee is Tracy Cafaro, whom you've seen on camera. And I send lots of good vibes into your direction because a lot of the things that we realized is thanks to you.
Terrific. So I am going to hand it over to Tom Cafaro from Nichols, and Tom is going to present our Corporate Citizen Award. And your notebook is still here. Good news.
Last time I did this, Peter stole my notebook. Improving communities and helping those in need goes beyond just doing your job. It is improving the quality of life of others in your community. Utilizing the skills one has after the official job has been done shows the true meaning of volunteerism. For a company that has overseen construction projects that include the Downtown City Square project, construction of the new Sandy Hook Elementary School in Newtown, Connecticut, and renovated the DCU Center, the Longfellow Bridge, and the Smithsonian's Renwick Gallery in Washington, D.C., just to name a few, Consigli Construction is building a legacy beyond bricks and mortar. And if I may add a personal note, I met Anthony and his outfit, I can't remember how many years ago, it's been too long now, but when they renovated one of our old and difficult dormitories at Nichols College, and they did a great job. And to show his charitable side, he let me win in golf, so very nice. They are also building a strong corporate culture of volunteering. The company and its employees have donated thousands of dollars and man-hours annually to good causes across Greater Worcester, New England, and beyond. As Anthony Consigli, president at the fourth generation family company, states, it's impossible to build a great project if all you're concerned about is the construction. It has to be more than that. Volunteering at Consigli ranges from helping to rebuild an orphanage after a natural disaster, packing boxes at a food bank, installing a new entrance on a local homeless shelter, to donating money and resources to help a foundation that supports some of the poorest people in the world. Let's watch this brief video about Consigli Construction.
So the company gives back to the community in a number of different ways. First off, monetary donations, many times to the organizations that we're building for, because it's hard not to get engaged in their missions. But I would say a bigger way that we give back is through construction. It's what we do. We have an unbelievable amount of talent within our organization in terms of carpenters and laborers and masons, and a lot of times the organizations that we assist and help out with have those types of needs.
For-profit companies really have a responsibility to not only practice good business, but also to be socially responsible in the community. And Consigli Construction is the absolute epitome of that.
It really shows to their employees that they care about the community, that they believe in volunteerism, that they believe in giving back.
We aspire to be a great place to work. In order to be a great place to work, people have to feel like we're engaging with the community and that we're investing in the community. The work that we do with the different organizations that we partner with to give back makes our people feel more engaged. It makes them feel like they're working really for a family business that holds the community as a high importance.
They give their employees time, they give their own time, they're endless in their resources. They've really made a difference in our community.
Anthony has been very involved in our work in Sierra Leone. He helped build a maternal health clinic, which is incredibly important in a country where 1 in 6 women die in childbirth. He's really become incredibly important to that region of the world.
Matt doesn't know the word no. When Matt gives of himself, he gives not only personally time and money, but he expects others to give too. And he encourages others to fulfill the mission of the American Red Cross because he knows all the good it does to the community.
We are interested in giving back to the community, engaging with organizations that need our support. We want to create better communities to live in.
For the generosity they have shown that truly makes a difference in communities here and afar, please join me in recognizing the 2014 Corporate Citizen of the Year, Consigli Construction. Accepting the award is President Anthony Consigli.
Thank you, Tom. So not much else really to say. I do want to congratulate the other awardees tonight. I want to thank the Worcester Business Journal for hosting this, for doing this event, and Nichols also for supporting it. I do want to recognize the people in our company. They're really the ones that drive the whole mission and the values. It's not really me. I'm a great delegator. That's about it. But they really do take this to heart. They do the work. Several of the people here tonight are the people that actually come up with the stuff that we do and put the hours in. So thank you very much.
Humble. So how'd we do picking 4 great individuals this evening, huh? How about it? Phenomenal. So we promised to be done right around 6. We have arrived. I'm going to say a special thank you again to Tom and Nichols College for their support and everything they do to help make this event happen. To our media partners, WTAG, a special thanks to the Beechwood Hotel, Curry Printing, Ed Cody Photography, Elevation Exhibits, Mark Serra Productions, Revelation Productions, and that's it for this afternoon. We have completed it. Let's spend some time with the winners and at our reception just outside of this room. Thank you again all for attending.